everybody, welcome back to my channel. I certainly hope that you guys can hear me okay. I have the headphone and hopefully that will help. However, it's so dang hot out, I can't turn off anything right now. I have the fan on full blast. I have the Dyson on full blast. It is wicked hot in this room. Now remember, last summer, was the first summer that I actually was in here, but I didn't end up being stuck in bed until like the end of July. So it wasn't like cool build. It was just like one day I just stayed in bed from the morning and I couldn't get out. So this of course is a very different situation. So hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. Again, I said forgive me for the noises. I hope they're not too irritating. I do have some news to share. It's sort of almost news because I don't know more. I just know one thing. So the one thing is I have revoked hospice. So I think we talked about this before. Hospice will not cover you or help you out while you're seeking treatment. And that includes the scans that I have scheduled next week. So the hospice is, the hospice team is going to transfer me to the in-home team, and the in-home team has physical therapists, occupational therapists, a nurse, also a shower aide, which happens to be the same shower aide that I have. They also have a homemaker, I believe. And yeah, that's it. So, that actually is effective immediately. I already signed the paperwork. Actually, I shouldn't say it's effective immediately. She has to do this whole process, but I mean, I signed the paperwork. So the nurse came. She's really happy with the progress of my wounds. She said, your immune system's kicking into overdrive, which I'm so happy about. You know, with immunotherapy, that's supposed to kick in your thing, but it actually overdrive it. So I think it's kind of like backing down my immune. I don't know. But anyway, it is really good. I started to have some islands on the right side. She counted 4, a little island on the middle of Long Island, and then how many are in the middle of Africa. So I still have 2 bandages on each because we tried one bandage on the one that looks like Africa and it moved, and then I ended up having like a raw spot, which was not pleasant. I mean, this was a few days ago. If you watched the How to Wound Care video yesterday, then you've seen it already with the raw spot. But the raw spot's kind of like where, you know, Africa does this thingy there. So that's the story right now. We don't know anything else other than I will tell you something that worries me a little bit, kind of worries the nurse a little bit, is that I started last week to have a tiny bit of pain in my sternum, like the lower part of my sternum, kind of where you do CPR. And then I was wondering if maybe, like, would that even show up on a nuclear bone scan, because your heart lights up because it's got blood in it, like real dark on the nuclear bone scan. So I will ask the technician next week, and, well, the following week. And today, no, last night right before bed, I started to have very intense thigh pain. And I don't mean thigh muscle pain, I mean thigh bone pain. And I never knew the difference before I broke my bone last year, because I never broke a bone before. But this is what it feels like. It feels like the pain feels like it's right above where I got my plate. I haven't been using it. It's just, I don't know if it's growing a new tumor there, or I think I mentioned my theory before, which is the theory, but I know my body. I don't know if I mentioned the theory before, but the places that I grew tumors were places that had trauma before. The biggest being by my right knee, where the only place I ever had surgery, was the biggest tumor there. Obviously up my thigh, but I told you guys before that I got knocked down a few times playing softball, and then once on the ice. Where my rib cage was, where my clavicle was, where my shoulders were, like all of these were areas of trauma. Both of my shoulders, when you play softball, and volleyball for that matter, but when you play softball, you use both arms equally, because one is your glove hand and one is your throwing hand. And more trauma to my left shoulder, I feel like could have also exacerbated from getting off that lower couch I used to have, But it also could just be that my right arm was more flexible at the time I was playing ball and continued to be more flexible throughout the years because it's my right arm. You know, it's the arm I do everything with. Carry groceries, such and that kind of thing. As far as the left arm being like it only took this impact of catching things and, you know, like this moment for years and years. So I don't know. These are just theories. This is my theory. I know my body, and this is my body is basically where we've had trauma. As far as the small of my back is concerned, I fell off a chair when I was like 7, right on my back, like knocked the wind out of me kind of situation. It might have been 8, because I think 7 was when I was choking on the hot dog, and my nan knocked the wind out of me, and it reminded me of like that when I fell. So my fell and it reminded me when my nan knocked the wind out of me. But it was the funniest story. My grandma was like, I was choking on a little piece of hot dog. It was like I was still breathing, choking. Like we know now, if somebody's coughing, then don't give them the Heimlich maneuver kind of thing. So my grandmother was pounding on my back. She had me folded in half. She was pounding on my back so hard, she knocked the wind out of me. And then I couldn't breathe because she had knocked the wind out of me. I was like, it's like, I was trying so hard. I was like, she was a very frail looking woman, but strong as an ox. I'll tell you that much. Oh, I miss her. It's one of those things that, like, I just can't wait till I go, when I'm ready to go home. And I can wait to go home. But I can't wait that when I go home, I get to actually see these people and tell them how much I miss them. And hopefully they tell me if I made them proud over the years. So that's my goal. My sister said it to me at my shower, and she's like, Mommy would be proud of you. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's when I realized that I am looking for parental validation. And my mother at this point was dead for 10 years. I was like, or almost 9.5. But yeah, actually just 9. It was just 9 when I got married. Actually, take that back. It was actually 6 days shy of 9 years. Math. I know it's in there somewhere. So yesterday we went and I'm not yesterday. Oh gosh, really, guys? How do you love me? This morning we went through a bunch of paperwork, tried to file some stuff, tried to get like all stuff organized. I realized that I have not updated my medical book in, I can't even tell you. Since after Julie was here, I did it for a little bit. But one day Jimmy was cleaning. It probably was when I had the medical book with me when I was away. So I definitely did it after I came back. But one day Jimmy was like cleaning in here and he moved it out of in here. Like he put it away somewhere, and then I've like never been able to update it because then he's like, oh, I'll get it for you tomorrow. I'll get it for... I'm not blaming him. Not blaming him. It's just it's something that we didn't prioritize is what I'm saying. And I said I didn't prioritize it either. What is that? What is that? Oh, it's the edge of my pillow? Yep, that's what that is. Sorry, you just had like a squirrel moment. Oh, hello. Excuse me one second. Yes, sir.
What are you trying to yell at me about?
You said you were going to go out and do your thing, but you said you would do that, so
Okay.
I was reminding you about it.
Okay.
Sorry about that. The phone was winging. The nurse said to answer the phone because it could be the in-home group calling back, so I just wanted to make sure it wasn't, so excuse me. My nan was a pretty amazing person. I think I've talked about her before, but I don't think I've talked about her in a very long time. She had 6 kids. She was married, and her husband died, and then she got married to my grandfather, and they proceeded to have 6 kids, and he left her after the 6th one was, I think, like, I wanted to say 1 or 2, or she threw him out, I think she actually threw him out, but women didn't do that those days, so I think we was talked that he left and he was a scoundrel. Thank you, love. Thank you, sweetheart. That's the cinnamon.
It's powder.
Oh.
There are no more cinnamon.
Okay, sorry. Thank you.
You're welcome.
It's one of those things that you just don't always hear the right, like, stories as people, oh, I heard this story, I heard that story, I heard that story. And sometimes you get, like, you know, my grandmother's first cousin's daughter, heard like the real story back then, and it's like secondhand information, and you're like, well, this is third part, like, you know what I mean? You don't know exactly, because if you think about it, you don't always tell your sister the same story you tell your bestie. You don't always tell your bestie the same story you tell your spouse. You don't always tell your spouse the same story you tell your parents. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying that you lie to any of them, but sometimes you don't give them all the details, or you make it seem like everything's okay when it's not really, because you don't want the person to worry. You got everything, hon? Okay. So you don't want the person to worry, so like, you say it in a different way, but anyway, she raised these kids, and they all went to Catholic school, and she worked her hiney off. She did everything from, like, cleaning to, she was a telephone operator, like a switchboard operator in a doctor's office. She was an amazing woman. She then came to live with us after I was born, so like 1971, 72. She was still working then, but she came to help out because my mom took in my two cousins after their parents had split, and their dad was trying to get his stuff together for them. I think I've told you guys that before. So she came to move in to help out with the kids and financially too. My mom didn't start working. I don't think she started working until after I started school. I want to say it was kindergarten, because I was the youngest, and I want to say she was home until I started kindergarten, and then she started driving a cab. Because she was definitely driving a cab when I was in kindergarten, but I did have pre-K in the church for a while. I think we were the first pre-K class. We started in the church, and then the pre-K moved to the elementary school. So I don't really know. I gotta ask my sisters about pre-K. I'm not 100% sure if we were the first, or we were just the first to be in that school. But anyway, she definitely drove a cab when I was in kindergarten, because I almost fell out of the car on the Long Beach Bridge. She pulled me back from death's door. So she'll always be my hero. She held me tight that day, I tell you that much. But anyway, she started working, and then she really didn't stop. She really didn't stop until she was pregnant with my brother. And actually, when she was pregnant with my brother, she worked until her health fell out. She was 40, and she was considered obese, I think. It's hard to know. I think she was considered obese, but she was built like the kind of women, I guess they call them apples. So she was like, all of her weight was in her. She had broad shoulders and large breasts and a belly, but her legs were super skinny. She had no tushy whatsoever, like flat bottom girls, not fat bottom girls. Everything that me and my sisters got from the waist down was totally from my dad's side of the family. I'm just saying. My mother and her sisters all look like potatoes with toothpicks sticking on you, floating, on your waist. Okay. So when she developed gestational diabetes with my brother, she was actually hospitalized for it. She was on bed rest, and that was the first time that she didn't work since I started school. So that was about 6 or 7 years, maybe 8. I don't know if, like I said, I don't know if she started driving a cab when I was in pre-K. She also did tend bar during the week at night, and I'm not really sure when that started, but I don't know if that was steady until I was in school. So I have to ask my sisters that too, because they're older than me and they know. I remember first learning how to read, and I was laying in the back of my mom's car, and she pulled up to the wine cellar, and I was trying to spell it. I was like, Mom, does that say wind color? And she said, that was really close. And then she taught me how to add the E and make the I long. And sometimes the C has a soft C sound. Like cycle. I was like, oh, so it's wine cellar. I said, oh, this is your job. Because I didn't know where we were. I was laying in the back of the car. Anyway. So there is that. And they just came from like Hardy stock. They just came from Hardy stock. They did what they had to do. That's how I learned how to do what I had to do. You know, that's why I had 4 jobs when my father was forced retirement, because how else were we going to get the bills paid and my brother through school? And, well, it's 3 or 4. Well, technically it was 4, because I count Tupperware, because even though I didn't actively have parties every week, I still actively sold, like, to the chain of friends that you have that always like, hey, I need lids, I need this, I need that. So I kind of like feel like it was 4, but definitely it was 3. So I definitely was working at AHRC, working at Calling Kids, babysitting, and doing Tupperware. So I always tell everybody it's 4 jobs, because I had a lot of bowls going on at the same time. So eventually we figured out the finances, and I didn't have to do quite as many things, which was good. And I got more hours at AHRC, so I stopped working at Calling Kids, and I just kept the babysitting going. So yeah. It was like the hustle, you know, and I kind of feel like I don't get offended when people call me lazy. I really don't. What I do get is offended for fat people, because I feel like the reason you're calling me lazy is because I'm fat, and you assume that fat and lazy go together. So that kind of like, I don't like the stereotype, because obviously not true. I've been fat my whole life, and God forbid I ever sat down for more than 5 minutes at my job, or any of them. That's why I always volunteer to change diapers at the nursery school, because I get to sit down on the floor and change all the baby diapers. Finally get a break. I mean, granted, I was like almost 30, but still. 26, 27, 27 maybe. I mean, I worked there until I was 29. I worked there until I was 29 or 28. I worked there right before I met Jim. Did I quit right before I met Jim? I feel like I finished that school season out right before I met Jim, but I can't remember. I was working at AHRC already. Like, I remember I worked for like a year. It was burnout for sure. I worked really hard. It was like balancing schedules and trying to be there for people. And when I didn't have the babysitting hours, then I was like, what am I doing with myself? You know, like if I had a night off, I was like, why am I home? I need to be out doing something. So, yeah. Anywho, that being said, my nan was just a really, really strong lady. And she was tall, but, you know, she was very frail and bent over by the time I remember. Now, she lived with us, like I said. I remember going to work with her at the doctor's office. I remember sitting up on the counter for the switchboard, like when she was moving the things. And I'd only remember being there, like, one of those times, like, did you ever have, like, your mom had to drop you off, but your dad was going to pick you up kind of situation? Like, I think that's what it was like. Whoever was driving Nanny home, I was getting dropped off at her office so that we can both go together, so nobody could be home, like the baby wouldn't be home alone type of thing. So that was 4. That was actually before I even started pre-K, or if I had pre-K in the morning, you know. I don't exactly remember, but I knew my cousins were all older and they helped me do stuff, and they took care of us whenever they could, but they were all going to school, so it's kind of like, yeah. Anyhow, so I just remember her as like her last few years, because I was older then, and you know, she was very bent over with osteoporosis and, you know, age. I feel like, I mean, we didn't know it was osteoporosis at the time, but now we know that's probably what it was. She was all bent over, and she seemed very, very frail. So I don't know. She was very strong. I'm telling you, she was very strong. Anywho, let's see. What else? So I think so. I had a spot in my clavicle, which I had gotten into a car accident in the passenger. It was just a fender bender, but I remember hurting myself with the seatbelt pretty bad. And the spot in my, like I said, the spot in my back, I fell a few times. 3 times I fell. Well, twice I tripped, and once I fell off the chair. But I got knocked over quite a bit playing ball and playing volleyball too, like playing softball and playing volleyball too. So anyway, I just feel like it's trauma, and now I'm like, okay, so since there was another surgery there, is that where I'm going to grow a new tumor? My brother used to poke me in the chest. Do I have a tumor on my sternum? Because my brother used to poke me really hard in the chest. Oh, goodness. So, anyhow, I am hoping to be able to travel this summer after everything happens with my back. I hope that if I start treatment again, maybe I'll have a time between treatment. We'll see what happens next week or the week after. We'll see what happens with treatments. I do have to get blood work to see that my kidneys are working. Yes, have to see that my kidneys are working to be able to get the CT scan next week. So they have to make sure that my kidneys are still functioning before I take the barium in. And that's not bad. Is it barium when you drink it in water? I don't know if it's still that, but the contrast. And then the following week is the nuclear bone scan, which is they give you a radioactive isotope. You can't, change the commode for you have to change the commode every time you pee for 24 hours, and, wash your hands diligently, and yada, 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 and so on and so forth, and yakety schmackety, and yada, yada, yada. So, but the nuclear bone scan was the test that was like, oh, you have a lot of tumors. And I was like, oh, do I really now? I was kind of fascinated at the time, and I was like, oh, really? He's like, oh. He was scared to show me, but I was like fascinated to learn. Oh. Listen, YouTube family, I love you, but that was my niece, Katie, and I love her the mostest. No, not really. I love everybody the mostest, but you know what I'm saying. She, I've really enjoyed FaceTiming with her on her days off. She tries to give me just a little call, see how I'm doing, checking in and stuff, which makes me feel so special, and she's so sweet, and I miss her so much. But anyhow, we were just talking about the nuclear bone scan, and the technician is really great, and like I said, he walked me through what he sees as it's going, and he, he's like, well, I have to give you the official interpretation, but this is what I see so far, or do you see these areas? Like, he just explained everything to me, which was really cool. So I know that there's been people having questions about like their bone density test and the nuclear bone scan. I mentioned it previously that they're both done in the same machine, so the results look very similar. Like the scan itself looks very similar. It's just the way that they're done with the different things that they inject into your body to see are very different. So he did tell me during he not only told me, but he also showed me, he had it in the report, that some of it was actually osteoarthritis inflammation, and you can tell by the amount of blackness in that scan. And obviously the little video that I got you couldn't really tell much difference between the different blacknesses. But for example, like my left knee, if you saw my left knee was kind of dark, there was no cancer there. That was just osteoarthritis. Because you can kind of see it's really faded black at the time. So, and I think how the soft tissue and bone show up, like if I feel like if it's an area that's soft tissue and bone, maybe, then I don't remember. I wish I could remember. I'm going to try to ask him more questions this time. Remember the first time I went, I had tons of questions, and then I also got a cancer diagnosis recently after that. So my brain is like, kind of like, And And then the second time I went, I was so busy catching up with the first time, and then I already had like the leg wounds and stuff were starting, and the back rashes were starting and everything, that it kind of was really focused on not getting hurt or doing more damage, and dressing the leg again and stuff like that. So this time it's really just going to be like, I'm going to try to remember to ask the questions that I really want to know. I want to ask him about my sternum, and how can you tell when it's not your heart but your sternum, just because there's a pain there. But first I'm going to get a CT scan, which will show you soft tissue. So I'm curious to see if my kidney tumor has grown. I'm curious to see how much, if my kidney tumor has grown. Let's put it that way. Yeah, I can't think of any other new stuff. I think I mentioned this the day before yesterday or before that. The healing, the roof of my mouth is healing forward. So like right behind my teeth is very, very swollen, and I kind of sometimes have like a little tiny lisp, because it's really, really swollen right there. And the more it heals in the back, the more swollen it gets in the front. And I'm not just saying like comparatively wise, like literally, because my tongue is now, it's invading more of my teeth. I guess that's the best way to say it. And because I can't, like I have to brush delicately, most of the time I try to like clean my teeth with like my finger, or the Q-tip. I use the Q-tip, but so I can feel the difference, and I use my teeth to make sure that I've gotten all the grit, and I'm use my tongue, on my teeth to feel like I've gotten all the grit, so I can feel from the back of my tongue like how much of my teeth are being covered in the back there. And then constantly feels like there's something between my front two teeth, but that's just the swollen gum coming between the two teeth. It's very like that. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. I know this was a very broken up blog, but all of the phone disruptions and husband disruptions, but listen, it's okay, because I come back to you every time. Yeah. Now, if I have not told you before, I love you. And if nobody's told you today that you're loved, you can always come by and hear how much I love you, because I appreciate every single one of you for coming by every single day. I really do. If you have stuff to tell me, you can go ahead. I'm in the comments now every day, which is great. If I have a bad day, every other day, you know, the app does the reading for me, but still it does take me, like, my comprehension, and I have to have clear thought to actually, like, respond. The other day, this poor app, you know, on my phone, when this iOS reads the messages on my phone, reads the comments on my phone, the Siri is a man. He's Australian. On my tablet, it's just a woman. I don't think she's Australian. I think she's British, because there is no male on the iPad. This my version of the iPad. So it's kind of funny. I can hear, and I'm like, I want to talk on the phone, but the letters say like they're a 9 on here, they're like a 10 on here. So like, or they're an 8 on here, and they're like a 10 on the tablet. So they're slightly bigger. So I kind of like always want to try to read along with the tablet, but I like the voice better on the phone. So just saying. But then I actually have to like listen to it. So this poor Siri on the phone the other day was like reading the same comment like 27 times, because my brain was thinking of something completely different. It was off in like never world. So, oh, there goes another phone call. I gotta go. If nobody's told you to say you're loved, you could always come by and hear how much I love you. And as always, you guys take care. God bless. We'll see you next time. Bye.